So what if learning the word for apple in another language was actually the single most effective thing you could do to get a 46% faster promotion at work?
I mean, it sounds completely disconnected, right? Almost absurd on its face. The idea that memorizing a piece of fruit could dictate your trajectory in a corporate boardroom decades later.
It really does sound wild. But the data we are looking at today suggests it is not an exaggeration at all. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Our mission today is to explore something you probably do, well, every single day without a second thought, which is use language. But we are not looking at language merely as a tool to, like, order a coffee on vacation.
Right, definitely not.
We are examining the profound cognitive, cultural, and professional impacts of forcing your brain to acquire a completely new system of operating.
And to do that, we are synthesizing this incredibly diverse stack of sources. I mean, we have rigorous academic research, including a really pivotal study from the European Journal of Pedagogical
Oh
Initiatives.
yeah, that one is fascinating.
It is. And we are looking at that alongside this fascinating interdisciplinary study from the journal Computer Fraud and Security, which tracks language proficiency and career advancement.
Yeah, we are also looking at the architectural blueprints of language learning itself, right? Like,
Yeah.
we have the common European Framework of Reference for Languages, the CEFR guidelines.
Right, the gold standard.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And the Cambridge English Young Learners Handbook. Plus, we are integrating insights on authentic cultural materials from ELT News and Interlingo Formation.
And serving as the absolute core of our exploration today, we have the foundational Oxford 3000 vocabulary list.
It is a massive amount of material, I know.
Yeah, it's huge, but every single one of these sources is pointing toward the exact same underlying mechanism.
Right.
They all show how the struggle to learn basic words physically changes the brain, alters how we connect with humanity, and, ultimately dictates how we succeed in a globalized world.
So whether you are a lifelong language learner, someone who's been stubbornly fighting with a language app on your phone for 3 years with minimal progress.
Or we've all been there with the apps.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or, if you're a professional looking for a serious career edge, this deep dive is going to fundamentally change how you view the words coming out of your mouth.
I really believe that. To grasp the end result, that 46% bump in promotions, we first have to understand the starting line.
Right, the absolute basics.
Yeah, we need to look at how language proficiency is actually built and measured.
Okay, so in the language learning world, the undisputed gold standard for measuring that progression is the CEFR. According to our source from MyLinguistics, this framework breaks mastery down into 6 distinct levels.
These levels, yeah.
It starts at A1, the absolute beginner, moves through the B levels of intermediate fluency, and culminates at C2, which is advanced near-native proficiency.
What is crucial to understand about the CEFR is that it is not merely a grading rubric for standardized tests. I mean, if you look closely at the descriptors, it is actually a psychological map of human cognitive progression.
Oh, wow. The psychological map.
Yeah, exactly. It illustrates how a human mind moves from utter helpless dependence on the immediate physical context all the way to complete abstract intellectual freedom.
Okay, let's break down that map then.
Yeah.
At the A1 level, the MyLinguistics source notes that a learner has elementary proficiency.
Right.
You are relying on very basic phrases and simple everyday expressions. It is entirely about immediate needs. You state your name, your age, where you live. You weren't really creating language, right? You were just playing back memorized sound bites.
It is a state of linguistic infancy, really. A1 is highly transactional.
Transactional, yeah.
The language you possess is tied entirely to the present moment and your immediate physical surroundings. You cannot discuss philosophy, You can only discuss the chair you are sitting on or the water you need to drink.
Right. Then you graduate to A2. Here, you can manage routine tasks. You start using straightforward sentences.
Yeah, and you can handle a short, predictable conversation, but it requires visible, exhausting effort. Like, if a native speaker talks at their normal speed, you're completely lost.
Oh, totally lost. But you do start realizing that a grammatical structure you learned in a bakery can actually be used in a train station.
And that realization is a massive cognitive leap. The rigid memorization begins to thaw. You are beginning to internalize the underlying system, even if your vocabulary is still restricted to the absolute basics.
Okay, then we hit the threshold where things get interesting, which are the B levels. B1 is where you start to understand native speakers at a more natural cadence, provided the topic is...
Provided it's familiar.
Yeah, you can discuss past events, your hopes, your plans. You're finally stepping out of the immediate present tense. And B2, well, that's the holy grail for most learners.
Oh, absolutely. B2 is true conversational fluency. You can follow extended arguments, watch television without subtitles, and engage in spontaneous interaction without making the other person strain to understand you.
Exactly. Finally, you have the C levels. C1 is advanced proficiency, where you express complex ideas fluidly without obviously searching for words.
And C2 is true mastery. At C2, you can understand virtually everything you hear or read, summarize complex academic sources, and convey the finest, most nuanced shades of meaning in high-pressure situations.
But the detail in my linguistics source that really stopped me in my tracks was the time estimate.
Oh, the hours required.
Yes.
Yeah.
They calculate that it takes 40 to 60 hours of guided class time, plus independent study, just to go from 0 to A1. 40 to 60 hours.
It's a lot.
And to move from B1 to B2, that requires a staggering 100 to 150 hours of sustained, intensive exposure.
The time investment is monumental, and it is a stark reminder that we are not simply memorizing trivia here.
Right. But I want to challenge that 40 to 60-hour metric for a moment. I mean, if A1 is so incredibly basic, literally just pointing at things, introducing yourself, and asking where the bathroom is, why does it demand a full work week or more of intense cognitive labor to achieve? It feels disproportionate.
It feels disproportionate until you realize what the brain is actually being asked to do. You are not just learning a list of alternative sounds for things you already know.
Right. It's not just a translation dictionary in your head.
Exactly. You are building a completely parallel neural architecture. You are teaching your brain to map a new set of phonetics and syntactic rules onto physical reality while simultaneously suppressing your native language.
Suppressing your native language. Wow.
Yeah, this is where the Cambridge English Young Learners Handbook provides incredible clarity, actually. It shows us how language begins, stripping away all the adult complexity.
Yeah. This source focuses on the starters, movers, and flyers exams, which are designed for young children.
Precisely. Look at the developmental progression it outlines. At the pre-A1 starters level, a child can understand very simple spoken descriptions of everyday objects, like their size or their color.
Right.
They rely almost entirely on visual cues. They see a picture of a dog and they map the sound dog to it. They're not using a linguistic system yet. They are using a visual associative system.
So they're just pinning labels onto physical items in their environment.
Yes. But by A1 movers, a massive shift occurs. They begin to understand simple written signs. They can describe actions. And by A2 flyers, they are forming complex questions like, what time does the film start? They're using connective tissue like because and then.
Okay, so the reason it takes 60 hours to reach A1 as an adult is that you have to basically regress to that childhood state.
Yes, entirely.
You have to train your adult brain to stop relying on complex abstract thought and force it to rebuild language from the ground up. Starting with pointing at pictures. You're building the atomic units of communication.
Atomic units is the perfect term for it. Without the individual atoms, you cannot build the complex molecules of thought. You can never achieve the C2 level of nuanced corporate negotiation without first mastering the A1 level of fundamental physical survival.
And that concept, the atomic units of language, is going to be the absolute core of our discussion today. We are going to put this theory to the test right now.
I'm ready.
Awesome. Our sources highlight the Oxford 3000 list, which catalogs the 3,000 most important, frequently used words required to function in English, categorized strictly by CEFR level.
It is essentially the DNA sequence of modern communication.
Yeah. We are going to zoom in specifically on the A1 level today. And even more specifically, we are looking at the third block of 100 words from that A1 list. This block starts roughly at the concepts of drink and drive and moves through the alphabet up to words like front, fruit, and full.
This is the absolute bedrock layer of human interaction.
Exactly. So to demonstrate how incredibly difficult and profound it is to build this bedrock, I am going to put you through a rigorous exercise. As the expert, you must act as the ultimate A1 teacher.
Okay, I can do that.
I'm going to give you words from the specific Oxford list. You have to explain their meanings to me, but you are strictly forbidden from using any complex vocabulary, metaphors, or advanced grammar. You may only use simple, A1 level English to define them, and you must provide a straightforward A1 level example sentence for each one.
Oh boy. This is genuinely the hardest thing you can ask an analyst to do. The phenomenon is known as the curse of knowledge.
The curse of knowledge.
Yeah, once your brain acquires complex vocabulary words like phenomenon or acquire, it is agonizingly difficult to suppress them and restrict yourself only to the most rudimentary tools. But I am ready for the challenge. Let's do it.
Let's see how you handle the cognitive restriction. We will group these words thematically to see the patterns in how we build reality. Let's start with the most basic human necessity: movement and action. Your first word from the list is drive. Define it. A1 only.
Okay, to drive is to make a car move. Example, I drive my car to work.
Good. Now, the noun form, driver.
A driver is the person in the car. Example, the bus driver is a nice man.
Wow, okay. Notice how you couldn't say operate a vehicle. Operate is B2, vehicle is C1. You are forced to use make a car move. The mental gymnastics required just to simplify that is fascinating. Let's keep going. Fly.
To fly is to move in the air. Example, birds fly in the sky.
Flight.
A flight is a trip in an airplane. Example, the flight to London is long.
Here's a slightly more abstract movement. Follow.
To follow is to go behind someone or something. Example, the small dog follows the boy.
Right. Fall.
To fall is to drop down quickly. Example, the apples fall from the tree.
Okay. Find.
To find is to get something you lost or want. Example, I find my keys on the table.
Then finish.
To finish is to bring to an end. It is to stop because it is done. Example, I finish my homework after school.
You stayed perfectly in the A1 pocket there.
It takes so much focus, you have no idea.
I bet. But stepping back for a moment, look at the physicality of these words. Follow, fall, find, finish. They are entirely about a human body navigating three-dimensional space and managing basic tasks.
Because before you can debate quarterly earnings, you have to know how to navigate gravity. You have to know how to locate objects. These verbs are the core mechanics of survival.
That makes total sense. Let's move to the next category of survival, which dominates the A1 list: food, drink, and consumption. Define the word drink itself.
To drink is to put water or liquid in your mouth and swallow. Example, I drink water every morning.
Okay, eat.
To eat is to put food in your mouth. Example, I eat an apple for lunch.
Now define egg without using words like reproductive or embryo.
An egg is a round, white, or brown thing from a bird. You cook it. Example, I eat an egg for breakfast.
That is brilliant. You defined it purely by its physical appearance and its utility to a human. Let's do fish.
A fish is an animal that lives in water and swims. Example, the fish swims in the river.
Right. Food.
Food is what you eat to live. Example, pizza and apples are food.
Fruit.
Fruit is sweet food that grows on a tree or plant. Example, a banana is a fruit.
And the state of having eaten enough. Full.
Full means having no empty space. It has everything it can hold. Example, my cup is full of water.
When you strip language down to these definitions, it just feels incredibly primitive. Like at A1, you're essentially equipping a human with the linguistic tools of a hunter-gatherer. Eat, drink, find food, avoid falling.
It reveals our evolutionary priorities, right? If you look at the entire Oxford 3000 list, words relating to abstract philosophy don't appear until the B levels. The A1 level prioritizes the physical body, caloric intake, and immediate physical safety.
Let's look at how A1 handles the concept of time in mathematical order then. This is a massive leap from just eating and moving. Define early.
Early means before the usual time. Example, I wake up early in the morning.
Okay, evening.
Evening is the end of the day, before night. Example, we eat dinner in the evening.
February.
February is the second month of the year. Example, February is cold.
Friday.
Friday is the day of the week before the weekend. Example, I like Friday very much.
Now, let's look at numbers. We obviously know what numbers are, but defining them linguistically is tricky. Define 8.
8 is the number 8. It is 1 more than 7. Example, I have 8 books in my bag.
Let me pause you there. Why is a specific number like 8 or 18 or 50 categorized as a foundational survival word, while a numerical concept like dozen or multiples is reserved for higher levels?
Because base numbers are the infrastructure of societal coordination. At A1, you are building the mathematical framework of reality. You need base numbers to tell time, to buy food at a market, to measure distance. Dozen is a cultural shorthand, 8 is an absolute mathematical necessity for basic trade.
That makes perfect sense. Let's continue. Define 18.
18 is the number 18. Example, my brother is 18 years old.
50.
50 is the number 50. Example, the shoes cost 50 euros.
And the concept of order, first.
First means number one in a line or in time. Example, he is the first person in the shop.
Okay, so we have physical space, consumption, and time. Now we must navigate the social world. Let's look at people and feelings. Define family using only A1 concepts.
A family is a group of parents and their children. Example, my family has 4 people.
Father.
A father is a male parent. Example, my father is a tall man.
Friend.
A friend is a person you know and like very much. Example, she is my good friend.
Friendly.
Friendly means acting like a friend, kind and pleasant. Example, the dog is friendly to children.
Famous.
Famous means known by many people. Example, the singer is very famous.
Excited.
Excited means very happy and feeling good about something. Example, I am excited for the holiday.
The progression here is subtle but vital, isn't it? We've moved from the self-eating, drinking, falling to recognizing the existence and value of others. We are building social cohesion.
Exactly. You cannot build a society without the concepts of family and friendship. And notice how famous sneaks into the A1 list. It shows that recognizing social hierarchy and widespread recognition is considered a baseline survival skill in human communication.
Let's tackle the final group from our specific block. I call these everyday concepts. These bridge the gap between primitive survival and modern functioning.
Right.
Let's start with a modern one. Email.
An email is a message sent on a computer or phone. Example, I write an email to my teacher.
Example.
An exam is a big test to see what you know. Example, I have an English exam tomorrow.
Example.
An example is a thing that shows what other things are like. It helps you understand. Example, this sentence is an example.
Now back to the physical body. Eye.
An eye is the part of your face you used to see. Example, I have 2 brown eyes.
Face.
The face is the front part of the head. Example, I wash my face with water.
Fact. This is a hard one to simplify.
A fact is a thing that is true. Example, it is a fact that water is wet.
Fire.
Fire is hot light and heat that burns. Example, the fire is very hot.
And finally, front.
Front is the part that is forward, the first part you see. Example, the door is at the front of the house.
You survived the challenge. You can drop the A1 persona now.
Oh, thank goodness.
The mental strain you just exhibited trying to define fact as a thing that is true instead of an objective reality based on empirical evidence was palpable.
It is genuinely exhausting because as adults, our thoughts are inherently complex. Forcing a complex thought through a microscopic linguistic funnel requires immense cognitive control.
And that is the exact point I want to hammer home for the listener. You might be a brilliant professional, senior engineer or a financial analyst, but when you start learning a new language, you are stripped of your intellectual armor. You are reduced to this basic, grueling survival level. You have to endure the frustration of only being able to say the fire is very hot when you desperately want to discuss thermodynamics.
But you cannot skip this step. Without internalizing face or fact or find, you cannot build the complex metaphors required in the professional world. If you don't know the word for front, you cannot eventually understand a phrase like front-loading a contract.
Right.
The complex is always built on the primitive.
The sheer mental fatigue of that process leads us directly into the most fascinating part of our research today. We know what you are learning, these atomic units, but what is physically happening inside your skull when you force your adult brain to map a new sound to the concept of fire or friend?
To understand the physiological mechanics of this, we turn to the comprehensive study from the European Journal of Pedagogical Initiatives. This research tears down the old assumption that language learning is just a linguistic task, like, memorizing a list of state capitals.
Right. It's not just rote memorization.
No, it proves that acquiring a language is a demanding, rigorous mental workout that aggressively reshapes cognitive development.
The study uses a term that I want to dissect, actually. Metalinguistic awareness. What exactly is happening in the brain when we develop this?
Think of it this way. When you only speak your native language, you use grammar, syntax, and word formation completely automatically. You are entirely blind to the machinery. You don't think about how to form a past tense verb. Your brain just executes the program.
It's like driving a car on an open highway. You aren't thinking about the fuel injection system or the transmission. You are just steering.
That is a great way to look at it. But when you start learning a foreign language, the automatic steering is gone. You are suddenly forced to open the hood and look at the engine. You start noticing the actual structures of communication prefixes, suffixes, subject-verb agreements, the nuances of tone. The EJPI study points out that this constant forced analysis of the engine makes learners inherently more analytical in every other aspect of their lives. It improves your overarching learning skills because you are training your brain to recognize, deconstruct, and manipulate complex systems.
Okay, the study leans heavily into the research of two prominent cognitive scientists, Ellen Bialystock and Viorica Marian. Their work focuses on attention control and working memory. And this is where the physical changes in the brain become undeniable, right?
Bialystock and Marian's research is the cornerstone of modern bilingual cognitive science. They have conclusively shown that people who navigate two languages excel in tasks that require intense, focused attention and complex multitasking.
But what is the biological mechanism driving that? Like, why does knowing a second word for apple make me better at multitasking in a spreadsheet?
Because of the mechanism of suppression. When you know two languages, both linguistic systems are always active simultaneously in your brain. When you look at an apple, your brain instantly retrieves the English word apple, but it also retrieves the word for apple in your second language.
So there's just a constant traffic jam in my head.
Exactly. In order for you to speak English, your brain has to actively, forcefully suppress the second language. And when you want to speak the second language, it has to suppress English. It is a never-ending, silent process of filtering out distractions.
I'm going to try a new metaphor here because the old cliche of upgrading the brain's RAM doesn't quite capture the violence of that suppression,
Yeah, it's too passive.
Yeah. It sounds more like a city planner trying to build a massive, complex subway system underneath a bustling, fully functioning metropolis. You have to route the new tunnels, the new language around the existing water pipes and foundations of your native language, all without disrupting the daily traffic above ground.
That is a remarkably accurate visualization. The daily effort of keeping that subway system running without collapsing the streets above trains the brain's executive control center. You are literally strengthening your neural pathway's ability to ignore irrelevant information and focus purely on the task at hand.
Yeah.
And that strengthened executive control translates to better concentration in a noisy office, better focus during complex problem solving, and improved working memory overall.
The European Journal study also highlights cognitive flexibility as a major byproduct of this mental excavation.
Cognitive flexibility is the ability to rapidly switch between different concepts or to view a single situation from multiple, completely different perspectives.
But how does struggling with A1 vocabulary build that specific flexibility?
Because languages don't just use different words for the same things, they construct reality differently. When you realize that another language might require you to state the location of an object before you state what the object is, or that it requires you to establish the social status of a person before you can even choose the correct pronoun, you are forced to view reality from a different angle.
Right.
You realize your native way of thinking is not the only way. That linguistic realization creates a profound cognitive agility. You become less rigid in your problem solving.
The text also emphasizes metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking.
Yes. The process of learning a language is fraught with failure. You will mispronounce things, you will use the wrong tense, you will completely misunderstand questions.
Oh, constantly.
Right. So to survive that, you have to develop metacognition. You have to step back and ask yourself, why did I fail to remember that word? What memorization strategy works best for my specific brain? How do I guess the meaning of this sentence from the context clues? This relentless self-analysis creates a highly independent, resilient learner.
This massive cognitive upgrade, the improved working memory, the flexibility, the metacognition. This explains why the EJPI study points out that countries across the globe are aggressively integrating early bilingual education into their national curriculums.
The international data is undeniable. The study notes that in countries like Canada and Finland, students who participate in bilingual immersion programs demonstrate higher academic achievement, not just in language arts, but across mathematics and science. Their fundamental cognitive processors have been enhanced.
The text also highlights South Korea and China, noting their emphasis on early exposure to foreign languages to foster motivation, curiosity, and that crucial cognitive flexibility from a young age.
Yeah.
And it extends to higher education, too. The study tracks European university students participating in the Erasmus Plus program, where they study abroad and immerse themselves entirely in new languages. These students report significant increases in adaptability, independence, and complex problem-solving skills.
It is a profound neurological and psychological transformation. But here's the critical pivot in our deep dive today. Having a cognitively flexible brain is only half the battle.
Okay, what's the other half?
Well, you can master all the A1 words, you can improve your working memory, but to reach true functional fluency, the B2 or C1 level where you can actually negotiate a contract or lead a team, you have to step out of the sterile laboratory of textbooks.
You have to leave the flashcards behind and step into the chaotic, messy reality of actual human culture.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the insights from ELT News and Interlingo Formation regarding the absolute necessity of authentic materials. Let's start with the ELT News article. How do they define authentic materials?
Authentic materials are any texts, audio, or video created originally for native speakers of the language with no intention of being used as a teaching tool.
Okay, so like real-world stuff.
Yeah, so instead of listening to a painfully slow, perfectly enunciated textbook dialogue about buying a train ticket, you are listening to real pop music, watching real television dramas, reading daily newspapers, or scrolling through native social media feeds.
The ELT article stresses that this is not optional, it is mandatory. Why did textbooks eventually fail us?
Because textbooks present language in a vacuum. But as the Interlingo Formation source brilliantly argues, language and culture are intrinsically permanently fused together.
Fused together.
A language is not just a neutral code. It is a living reflection of the beliefs, the history, the values, and the societal structures of the people who speak it. If you only learn the code but you don't understand the culture, you do not actually know the language.
That's a great point. The Interlingo article provides some incredible examples of this fusion. It discusses how certain languages handle the concept of social hierarchy. It notes that in languages like Japanese, there are multiple distinct ways to say the simple pronoun you. And crucially, which version of you a speaker chooses is dictated entirely by the social relationship, the age difference, and the contextual power dynamic between the speaker and the listener.
Exactly. Think about the implications of that. If you are learning that language and you just memorize a single translation for you from a flashcard, you are operating blind.
Right, you're missing all the context.
If you walk into a business meeting and use the wrong pronoun, you haven't just made a grammatical error, you have made a massive social blunder. You have inadvertently insulted a superior or disrupted the expected harmony of the room. You have to understand the cultural hierarchy to even construct a basic sentence.
The source also uses the English word home to illustrate this.
Yes, home is a perfect example. A basic dictionary might define home simply as a dwelling place. But the cultural weight of the word carries profound emotional connotations: safety, family, comfort, belonging.
Yeah, it's not just a house.
Exactly. When an English speaker says, "I want to go home," they are often expressing a deep emotional need, not just a desire to return to a physical structure. If a learner doesn't absorb that cultural weight through authentic exposure, like by seeing how the word is used in movies or literature, they will miss the entire emotional subtext of a conversation.
The Interlingo text also zooms out to look at macrocultural differences. It discusses how Western cultures traditionally place a high premium on individuality, directness, and self-expression, and how this drastically shapes the directness of Western communication styles.
Right.
Conversely, it notes that many Eastern cultures prioritize collectivism, social harmony, and saving face, which results in communication styles that are often more indirect, context-dependent, and reliant on reading between the lines.
And it is vital for us, as analysts reviewing this data, to maintain an entirely objective view of these sociological frameworks. Neither the Western individualistic approach nor the Eastern collectivistic approach is objectively superior. The Interlingo text is simply presenting the anthropological reality. A culture's overarching worldview fundamentally rewires its grammar, its vocabulary, and its conversational expectations.
So to truly understand what someone is saying, you have to understand how their culture views the world. And this loops directly back to you, the listener. If you are learning a language, watching a confusing foreign film without subtitles, or struggling to parse the slang in a native podcast, you are not slacking off. You are doing the most vital homework possible.
You are building cultural empathy.
Exactly. Engaging with authentic media is how you learn to interpret subtle, nonverbal cues. It is how you learn the cadence of humor. It is how you prepare your brain to interact with actual unpredictable human beings in a globalized economy rather than interacting with a textbook.
Because in a real corporate environment, people don't speak in perfect, textbook-approved sentences. They use idioms, they make sarcastic pop culture references, they navigate complex office politics using subtle shifts in tone. If you only possess the sterile, academic version of the language, you will be entirely lost in the real world.
So let's connect the entire architecture we've built so far. We started at the absolute foundation, analyzing how mapping A1 survival words like drive, early, and front forces the brain to build new conceptual realities. We looked at how that immense mental strain upgrades the brain's working memory and cognitive flexibility.
Yeah, we covered the cognitive side.
And then we explored how stepping out of the textbook and absorbing authentic cultural materials builds deep empathy and contextual awareness.
We have mapped the cognitive and cultural transformation.
But what is the tangible return on investment? Why should a professional endure hundreds of hours of mental fatigue to achieve this? Where is the real-world payoff?
The payoff is in your career trajectory. And the data detailing this payoff is some of the most robust and startling information in our entire stack of sources.
This brings us to the centerpiece of our professional analysis, which is the interdisciplinary study published in the journal Computer Fraud and Security. This wasn't a small survey. The researchers meticulously analyzed 500 professionals across various high-stakes sectors.
It was a massive undertaking.
They used a combination of hard quantitative data analysis and deep qualitative interviews. Their goal was to isolate and measure exactly how language skills and communication proficiency dictate career status, salary, and leadership development.
The numbers they uncovered should completely dismantle the idea that language learning is just a fun hobby or a nice-to-have bullet point at the bottom of a resume. It is a primary driver of economic mobility.
Let's get into the hard data. The study tracked the average salary increases of these professionals over a 5-year period, segmenting them strictly by their CEFR language level. Let's look at the baseline. If an employee possessed only A1 proficiency, that fundamental survival level of eat, drink, and fact that we discussed earlier, they saw an average annual salary increase of 3%. Over a 5-year period, starting from the study's baseline, that translated to an average salary of $13,100.
That represents the trajectory of someone who is fundamentally locked out of higher-level cross-cultural communication. Now, observe what happens as proficiency scales up.
At the B1 intermediate level, the annual salary increase jumps to 5%, pushing the 5-year average salary to $24,250. At C1 advanced proficiency, it jumps again to a 7% annual increase, hitting nearly $42,000.
And at C2, the mastery level, where you can navigate cultural nuance and complex negotiations, effortlessly professionals commanded an 8% average annual salary increase, culminating in an average salary of $63,300 after 5 years.
The sheer financial canyon between the A1 speaker and the C2 speaker is staggering.
And you have to remember the compounding nature of those percentages. An 8% annual increase versus a 3% annual increase over a 20-year career alters the entire socioeconomic trajectory of a family.
Wow. But the financial data is only half the story. The study also measured upward mobility, so promotions. They tracked how frequently and how quickly these professionals moved up the corporate ladder. At the A1 level, the overall promotion rate was a mere 10%, and it took an agonizing average of 5.2 years just to secure that first promotion.
Contrast that with the upper tiers of fluency.
Yeah, at C1, the promotion rate skyrockets to 40%, and the time required to earn that first promotion drops dramatically to 3.5 years. And at the C2 mastery level, the promotion rate hits an incredible 46%, with the first promotion occurring in a blistering 3.0 years. If you hold C2 proficiency, you're being promoted nearly 5 times as often and almost twice as fast as your colleague who is stuck at A1.
The study also segmented this data by industry, which adds a crucial layer of context. They found that the premium on language skills varies depending on the nature of the work.
Right. In international business, the promotion rate for high proficiency was 45%. In finance, it was 35%. These are sectors that rely heavily on relationship building, cross-border negotiations, and reading the subtle nuances of a room.
Exactly.
Interestingly, in healthcare, the promotion rate linked to language was lower, at 20%. This suggests that in highly technical, localized, or strictly clinical fields, the premium on foreign language might be slightly lower, though still highly significant.
So the quantitative data unequivocally proves the correlation. Language proficiency equals career advancement. But as analysts, our job is to ask why. How exactly does knowing another language force a corporate board to promote you? The Computer Fraud and Security study synthesizes 4 distinct sociological and economic theories to explain this mechanism.
Let's tear those theories apart. The first framework they use is human capital theory.
Human capital theory is a foundational economic concept. It states that an individual's accumulated skills, knowledge, and assets, their human capital, directly dictate their economic value to an employer.
Makes sense.
In an increasingly globalized, interconnected economy, fluency in a second language is a massive, tangible asset. It allows an employee to facilitate complex, cross-cultural transactions, open up entirely new international markets, and communicate directly with a broader array of stakeholders. From a purely economic standpoint, a C2 speaker is literally a more versatile, valuable tool for the company's expansion than an A1 speaker.
So that is a pure economic utility. The second framework is social capital theory.
Where human capital focuses on skills, social capital theory focuses on networks. Language is the ultimate mechanism we use to build, navigate, and maintain social relationships. Professionals with high language proficiency can seamlessly network at international conferences, quickly gain the personal trust of foreign clients, and build deep informal relationships with supervisors across different global branches.
It's the conversations happening in the hallway, not just in the boardroom.
Exactly. And those informal networks are the hidden pathways to power. They are how you gain access to vital resources, secure mentorship, and hear about opportunities before they're made public. If you cannot communicate fluently, you are permanently locked out of the social network that actually drives corporate advancement.
The third perspective this study brings in is sociolinguistics. Specifically, they focus on the immense power of code switching.
Sociolinguistics examines how language intersects with social structures, hierarchies, and power dynamics. The study found that employees who possess the advanced linguistic ability to fluidly code switch, meaning they can instantly shift their register from highly formal, technical language during a presentation to relaxed, informal banter during a coffee break, are uniquely positioned to succeed.
Because they can blend into any situation.
Exactly. They know how to navigate treacherous workplace politics. They know how to build rapport with subordinates while simultaneously commanding respect from superiors. It proves that in the corporate world, knowing how to say something is often much more important than knowing what to say.
And that leads perfectly into the final and perhaps most important piece of the puzzle. Cultural intelligence, known as CQ, and emotional intelligence, or EI.
This is where the cognitive neuroscience we discussed earlier merges with professional success. The study draws a direct, unbreakable line between high communication proficiency and high emotional intelligence traits, like profound self-awareness, empathy, and the ability to de-escalate conflict.
Right.
It also links language to cultural intelligence, the ability to walk into a room, instantly read the cultural context, and adapt your behavior to secure the best outcome. In today's incredibly diverse, complex work environments, technical skills are secondary. A leader must possess high CQ and EI to manage a modern team effectively.
Now, I have to challenge this conclusion. This feels like the classic correlation versus causation trap. I look at this data and I have to ask, is it the actual language that gets you promoted? Or is it simply that the specific type of person who possesses the relentless discipline, ambition, and drive to memorize the Oxford 3000 and achieve C2 fluency already naturally possesses the soft skills and emotional intelligence that a company wants to promote? Are we just measuring raw ambition and calling it a language premium?
That is the most critical question you could ask, and the researchers anticipated it. To resolve the correlation versus causation debate, the study utilized a highly advanced statistical technique called structural equation modeling, or SUM. STEM is designed to map complex, multidirectional relationships between variables. What the SUM data, combined with the qualitative interviews, proved is that it is not a one-way street. It is a synergistic, self-reinforcing loop.
Walk me through how that loop works.
Yes, highly ambitious people are more likely to attempt to learn a language. But the physical act of learning that language, the agonizing struggle to understand the cultural weight of a word, the cognitive flexibility required to constantly switch between two realities, the deep empathy developed by repeatedly failing to communicate and trying again, that grueling process actually forges those exact soft skills. Language practice is not just vocabulary practice. It is literally emotional and cultural intelligence practice.
So the language learning process is the gymnasium where you build the muscle of empathy and flexibility.
Precisely. The language itself gives you the literal access to the room, but the cognitive agility and the cultural empathy you developed while suffering through the learning process is what makes you an effective, promotable leader once you are inside the room.
Which brings up a reality that every listener needs to internalize. The Computer Fraud and Security Study makes a pointed observation about the future of work. We are living in an era defined by rapid automation and the explosion of artificial intelligence. Purely technical skills are depreciating in value every single day, AI can already write flawless code, it can analyze massive data sets, it can generate financial reports in seconds.
Technical competence is no longer a differentiator, you know. It is just the baseline.
The ultimate job security now relies entirely on the things that cannot be automated. Complex interpersonal relationships, cross-cultural negotiation, nuanced emotional intelligence, and the ability to bridge human divides. Those are the premium skills of the next century.
The ability to deeply, authentically connect with another human being across a cultural chasm requires a level of nuance and empathy that a machine simply cannot replicate.
Let's pull this massive exploration together. We have covered an immense amount of ground today. We started at the absolute bedrock of cognition, analyzing how mastering foundational A1 words like eat, find, and early is about mapping basic survival concepts to a new phonetic reality. We saw firsthand how difficult it is to strip away our adult complexity and define the world in its most basic atomic terms.
We then explored the profound neurological impact of that struggle. We saw how the constant effort to build a new linguistic system while suppressing your native one physically upgrades the brain's executive control, enhancing working memory and cognitive flexibility.
We moved into the realm of culture, realizing that a language is a living reflection of a society's values, and that true fluency requires absorbing authentic materials to build deep cultural empathy. And finally, we analyzed the hard statistical data, proving that these cognitive upgrades and this hard-won empathy translate directly into massive professional advantages, significantly higher salaries, remarkably faster promotions, and the emotional intelligence required for elite leadership.
It is a complete holistic picture of how the words we choose to learn shape the reality we get to experience.
Based on everything we have synthesized from these sources today, I want to leave the final word to you. What is the ultimate takeaway for the listener as they look toward the future of communication?
We've spent this entire deep dive establishing a core truth. The grueling, frustrating process of learning a language is what builds essential cognitive flexibility, working memory, and deep cultural empathy. It is an indispensable workout for the human mind. So the question we must ponder is this: what happens to human development if we simply stop doing it? We are rapidly approaching a technological reality where perfect, real-time AI translation earpieces will be ubiquitous. Within a decade, you may never strictly need to learn a foreign language to conduct international business or travel the globe. But if we outsource that struggle entirely to a machine, do we lose the cognitive workout? Do we lose the cultural empathy that forces us to truly see the world through someone else's eyes? If we stop doing the hard work of learning the words, do we risk losing a vital piece of what makes us human?
That is something profound to turn over in your mind on your commute tomorrow. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Whether you were aiming for that C2 promotion to land a spot in the boardroom or you were just trying to survive your A1 flashcard so you can order breakfast, keep pushing. The struggle isn't a barrier. It is the exact mechanism rewiring your brain for the better. Pick up a new word today. We will catch you next time.